Welcome to another broadcast of Habits and Money. Today promises to be another exciting day as we do a deep dive into business concepts that can really set you up for success. Today's topic is leadership, processes, and systems. And of course, we will be looking at business strategies. So, of course, if you're in business and you want to learn strategies, tips, and techniques that can really help you to optimize your game in business, I encourage you to stay with us. And of course, if you know of anyone who are in business, you can call those folks and just say, hey, Habits and Money, we're on air, or share the link with them. Along with this, I want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share so you will be the first to get these content that we are bringing to you on a regular basis. With that being said, I have a few announcements. In the event that you're in business and you need access to capital, I want to encourage you to reach out to us. You could be in 50 states in the US. We can help you access capital, whether it be debt, equity, credit, creative financing, or hard money lending. We will be happy to give you the support that you need. Now let's come right down to the Caribbean. Major development is taking place in the Caribbean, not just anywhere in the Caribbean, but Guyana. And we have a great leader in business that is behind global healthcare products, global healthcare supplies. And they are on a massive development, and they want to invite you to join their team to benefit from the growth and development that they are also contributing to Guyana's development. So let me say this. If you are a pharmacist technician and you're looking for an opportunity to connect with an organization where you can feel and know that you're part of a family, I want to encourage you to use the email that is currently on screen and send them your CV. All right. And they will respond to you. And the possibility exists that you can be on board this organization where you can have a beautiful experience to grow professionally. Along with this, if you are a lover of marketing and sales, you also have an opportunity to join this organization and develop one of the best careers in sales and marketing. So coming back to today's topic, today we are looking at leadership processes and systems. And I have two dynamic personalities in studios to support me in the conversation. So I first want to introduce Tony. And in the event that you're seeing Tony for the first time, how are you, Tony?
I'm good. Gary, how are
And
you?
you're fantastic, man.
Glad
And
to be
you're
here.
asking yourself, oh, always great to have you. You may be asking yourself, who is Tony? Well, Tony is a specialist in two specific areas. He is the guy that has expert knowledge in emotional intelligence, and we will talk about some of that today. And he also has expert knowledge in performance management, both of which you need to manage your business successfully. So great to have you, Tony, and we'll be talking a lot about emotional intelligence and performance management. Next, we have Clement Frank. And in the event that you're meeting Clement Frank for the first time and you want to know who is Clement Frank, well, Clement Frank is an economist by profession. He has been in the field of economics for quite a number of years, and he's also a leader. He is also the author of a new book, and very soon that book is going to be in the market. So, of course, if you want to follow these team members, I encourage you to log into this program so you will be updated on all the new development that is taking place that can really help to push you forward in business. Frank, welcome. How are you, my friend?
I am fantastic. I am fabulous. I am free spirited.
How are you doing,
I
Frank?
can hear that. Tony, this guy is looking youthful. We have to ask him the secret to his success, man. And we gotta rub shoulders.
Good sleep. Good sleep.
Yeah, I hope it can be part of our conversation today.
Good
I
sleep.
take this up. I think it's something more than just the melatonin translating into serotonin. I think it's more.
I can tell you afterwards what happening.
Okay, I'm listening out. I'm listening out. All right. All right. Welcome to today's program. Today, we're going to be talking all about leadership. We're going to be talking about processes, and we're going to be talking about systems. Now, to get the conversation rolling, I just don't want to talk about any type of leadership. Yes, we can spend some time talking about autocratic, democratic, paternalistic, and laissez-faire leadership, all of which are essential in the whole equation of doing business. But what I really want to talk about is proactive leadership. And why do I want to put some emphasis on proactive leadership? Because it is necessary in business. Ever so often, I see a rising star in business gets into business without taking that proactive approach to leadership. Now, it's only fair that I bring some context or give some context to the term proactive leadership. What makes proactive leadership is the fact that it stands on three important pillars. One, proactive leaders are trained to think ahead. What is there to think ahead about? I'll talk about that briefly. Proactive leaders are also trained to see beyond the problems. And in doing business, in your attempt to grow and scale a business, you're going to see many problems, but the important thing here is to see beyond it. And last, proactive leaders, they are trained to take informed action. Now, informed action is different than taking action. Informed action really helps you to develop a body of knowledge that is more scientific. So you have the data that says that when you take this specific course of action, this is going to be the results. Once time permits, I'm going to spend some time giving a brief overview of each of them. But let me get into the first aspect of proactive leadership. In starting a business, you want to think ahead. But what are those things that are most essential for you to think ahead about? To run a business successfully, you need the right human resources. Are you thinking ahead of this? All right. You need right resources, right human resources to function at your strategical level, at your tactical level, and at the operational level. Because the last thing that you want to do is to be a professional and then you are micromanaging, you're multitasking. Every day I'm interfacing with professionals from across the world. All right, because of what we do, we interface with professionals across the world. And there's a one cry. They wish they had known the importance of delegating responsibilities out, before this period of time. Because they experience the burden of doing everything on your own, simply because you did not think ahead that to elevate your vision, you may be an expert economist, you may be an expert pharmacist, you may be an expert medical practitioner, but it takes more than just your expertise to build a brand, to build a vision, to build a business around what you're doing. Your skill set is important. It may be the cream of the crop, but it's important for you to quickly recognize that if that vision is going to be elevated, you need the right human resources in public relations. You need the right human resources in marketing. You need the right human resources to handle finance and accounts management. You need all of this. And the best time to think about these things is possibly before you get the business started. Because at that particular time, you have a clear mental picture of what you're getting into. And you can now accurately develop cost factors for doing what you're doing. I'm going to talk about that just now. All right. But as you start a business, you attempt to scale your business, you want to think ahead. And there's three things that I want you to keep thinking ahead about. The human resource needs, the technical resource needs, and technical resource needs may fall into both machinery and human technical resources, and the capital resources. And I want to really emphasize this because ever so often we see rising stars get into business, but these are things you're not thinking ahead about. So you struggle to raise the capital, to move the vision forward. In fact, you don't even know what is the actual cost of running your business. The reason, again, we are talking about being proactive leader, because proactive leader look before they leap. All right. You want to know if you're getting into a sinking ship or a luxury yacht. When you think ahead, you have a clear mental picture of what you're getting into, what you're doing, and how to prepare yourself for this. I want you to think about it in this way. Can you imagine going to a battlefield to fight a war, and all you do is show up? You show up with a pencil. When the person you're doing war with, they got more than guns and ammunition. They got drones. And they ain't even got to come to your location. You just got to show yourself that they're going to drop the bomb from the drone and blow you up. That happens to you largely because you're not thinking ahead. But when you think ahead and you're able to have a true diagnostic of what you're coming up against in business, you can physically prepare yourself. You can mentally prepare yourself. You can emotionally prepare yourself for exactly what you're getting into. So this is a fundamental part of proactive leadership. Don't wait until your backs are against the wall and then you say, I wish I had thought about this. Because at that time, you could be hemorrhaging a lot of money. You could be building up your stress, going to high blood pressure. You could be going to sleepless nights. And that's not what you want to do. And that's why we talk about proactive leadership and being able to think ahead. So I'm going to pause here for now, and I'm going to open up to either Tony or Frank to share with us the importance of your specific areas and how it lends to the individual in business being able to be more successful by applying your tools and system. Who wants to go first?
Frank?
All right, no problem. We look at today's leaders, and for some, we have great examples of who we can follow. You talk about going into war and not being equipped. And just like the empires, you have companies can come and can go with the times. However, there are some organizations, business organizations, that has lasted for ages. And behind that is, the secret behind that is great leadership. Great leadership has the ability to motivate employees, to help others see and believe in a vision and lead innovation within the company. So having a great leader at the helm is something that all investors, consumers, employees, they all want it. What is an industry leader? It's a leader who is reputable as a business professional with what we call high levels of expertise in a specific field or area. And these industry leaders are innovative, they're driven, they're strategic, and they're able to adapt to changing trends in their field. And when technological developments arise or demand changes, these leaders know how to respond appropriately and offer valuable solutions. On an organizational level, business leaders in an industry understand how to meet company and consumer needs, and they research consumers and competitors while They're providing strategic solutions that address buyer and organizational demands. In order to accomplish this, industry leaders must know their employees or employers well. They must understand how competitors operate, and they have to offer solutions that will improve business products and services, because their goal is to help transform a company for the better. Industry leaders then pave the way for company success with new ideas and unique approaches. We know that leaders can wear many hats, but they most frequently fill one of these roles: CEO, the entrepreneur, or the company founder. And these leaders have qualities, because the qualities they have are they're informative and innovative. They are goal-oriented. They are solid communicators that have great communication skills, and they're risk takers. I want to bring some examples of business leaders who changed the world. And one has got to understand that in leadership, it's not always about the profits. There's so much more that goes into the business other than profits. Because if everything was about profits, you'll find a lot of business not sponsoring anybody for higher education, not helping in the community development. And we have, number one, I want to speak about Reshma Saujani. Saujani is the founder of Girls Who Code. And if you know what coding is, it's basically computer coding. So what she has done is promote technology training, and specifically coding to girls. She's an American lawyer. She's also a politician. And her company, Girls Who Code, they have camps set up in like 42 states with over 10,000 girls attending. So she has been a leader in empowering women in the workplace. There is Tim Cook. And Tim Cook is the CEO of the most valuable company in the world, Apple. He took over Apple after the company's founder, Steve Jobs, succumbed to cancer in 2011. And what Cook done is that he has helped navigate Apple through the transition after Jobs' death, as well as developing new product lines and opening retail stores in China. You have Sheryl Sandberg. She served as the chief operating officer of Facebook from 2008 to 2000. And I'm bringing these because folks will not only know about the leader, but they will mostly know about the organization in which they represent. And Sandberg has been COO, which is Chief Operating Officer of Facebook. Everybody running for Facebook. And she's been there from 2008, and that's like the beginning stages, to 2022. So she founded a nonprofit called Lean In, and it's named after her best-selling book. She has been an influential advocate for women in the business world, and has made the successful transition from government work at the Treasury Department to the tech industry at Google and Facebook. Bob Iger, he is the executive chairman and former CEO of the Disney Corporation. And he has led acquisitions of major companies like Marvel, Pixar, and most recently, Lucasfilms. Now, his leadership has also led to the expansion of Disney's theme parks in Shanghai and Hong Kong. I'll stop with this one, Reed Hastings, who is a co-founder and CEO of Netflix. And what originally started as a no late fees, no due dates subscription service soon transitioned into online streaming, which shook the very foundation of digital entertainment. In addition, Hastings constantly uses his position of influence to promote change and reform in the California State Board of Education and through charter schools. What we're seeing here, leadership is not just about making profits. It's not just about being here, whatever. You have to go above and beyond. And what we've seen, the trend here, is that these people have been innovative and creative. They have shown empathy to communities and helping people. Leadership is more than profit, as I said. It's all about how you harness the skills that you have to help others, to raise others up to the level that you're at. Thanks, Gary.
Yes, Frank. Those was great points. I do believe small or big, if you can get into the attitude of servitude above profit, what I've seen from our studies is that it translates very often into a positive image for the company, and that can also translate into making impact with your ID. So I love the points that you would have made. Tony, all to you, my friend.
Yeah, I want to continue with what Frank was saying about having a successful business. You know, when I first came out of school, I worked for this company. I was in my early 20s, and when I went into that environment, it wasn't long before I realized it was a very toxic environment. Now, the company itself was very, very successful, because they had good products. So all of the innovation that we want to see in the market, they had it. The problem was all the employees were unhappy. But they continue to sell, they continue to do well, and up to today, they continue to do well because they have good products. But for me, the idea is not so much about doing well. The idea is about maximizing your potential. And this is where the leadership comes in. What type of environment? Because leaders create the environment. One, they know the business. And sometimes I have seen family business, for example, family businesses who have been very successful. And then the children come in and the whole culture changes because they are not adopting the same values as maybe their parents did. But this is what performance management is about. It's about making sure that we can manage the performance of employees from beginning to end of their life cycle within the company, right? And in order to do that well, you have to bring in the emotional intelligence. How emotionally intelligent are leaders as they lead? Because like I mentioned, they create the environment. So things like leadership qualities like being empowering, being adaptable, being inspiring, these are things that create the right environment. And as you will know, we have a different generation of people now. The people now, the Gen Zs, the millennials, they are not like they were 20 and 30 years ago. So we need to change how we lead. But some of the same concepts still apply to the newer generations. So getting things right and having that performance management structure right and all the planning that goes into it, because with planning, companies have to have a very clear strategic plan. They have to understand their values and understand their mission, vision, and how the values fit into that. And they would probably more than likely start with something called a balanced scorecard, where they have everything from the financial goals to what they want to achieve for customers, what they want to achieve for their internal processes, and this is where all of the technology comes in. And then what do they want to achieve in terms of people, in terms of growth and learning? Because from your plan from the top down, from the financial, you plan from the top. But in actually carrying it out, you have to first make sure that you have the right people in place to get all of those things assessed. That's it. Over to you, Gary.
Yeah, those are great points, Tony. Very, very great points. And I want to emphasize the important role of leadership. And let me bring a slightly different perspective here. Now, there are processes in the organization, and then there's leadership. And I want to emphasize the importance of both the process and leadership, processes and leadership. Now, process are things like performance management. What is the process to optimize human performance? Processes are things like, emotional intelligence. How do we apply this within the organization? So you have those processes. Processes are marketing and sales and public relation. These are all processes. And for every organization, you need them. You need them. The challenge lies is that you perhaps acknowledging that you need them and perhaps making the attempt to incorporate them as part of the organization, but then you have poor leadership systems. And leadership again is more than just having the body of knowledge. The leadership is what's going to help you to see the challenges and to see beyond the challenges and to rise to the occasion to execute regardless of the challenges that is before you. And I find that sometimes we talk of leadership or we talk of processes divorced from the leadership input that is desirable to move a vision forward. And it is so important not to do this. I want to go deeper into processes now. It is so fundamental to the success of any business to understand clear processes. And only today we were talking about early on about the process to enhance your brand visibility. It's a process. And failure to understand this process is failure to be effective in executing on the right process, and it's failure perhaps throughout the whole business ecosystem. So what I will do, I will just share some of what is the processes that we are using to really help the listening audience who might be a rising star in business to understand the process of what we're going to call brand visibility. So you have a brand. The success of that brand means that it must be visible. The success of that brand means that it must grow through what we call the know, like, and trust. Because if the brand is not known, what happens? If the brand is not known, there's no reason for people to like that brand. And if there's no incentive for people to like that brand, there's no incentive for the people to trust the brand. So, but what's the process to help your business, to help the brand to break through that know, like, and trust? There are processes. And the reason that you're going to fail in business is because you haven't took the time to understand the process to break through the know, like, and trust. And I'm saying this against the fact and against the backdrop that we see that many startups, they're stuck in the unknown zone of doing business for decades. And they're stuck here not because they don't have a good brand, but because, again, the process to move the brand forward was underestimated, overlooked, not understood. So there are clearly established processes that you need to understand, especially when it comes to breaking through the know, like, and trust. There are systems. I'm not going to go into it now, but what I'm going to go into now, that part of that process is visibility. One of the things that you need to do in building a process to position the brand to be visible is to understand this whole equation. So when I say visibility, what exactly am I saying to you? What are the different processes to position the business and the brand to be visible? Well, to be visible means that we are now talking about mass media. To be visible means that we are now talking about social media. To be visible means that we are now talking about the metaverse. And to be visible means that we are now talking about independent communication channels. Without these four platforms that provides visibility, your attempt to be know, like, and trust is going to be significantly undermined. You have to be using one of them or two of them or all of them. It's part of the process. Now, if you're in business and this process of brand visibility is disregarded, it's another reason why you're going to fail. It's another reason why you're going to struggle. All right. So these are processes that you need to understand, but we can go deeper into the process, because it is not just to say we have mass media, radio, television, and newspaper, and it's an opportunity to optimize visibility. We often talk about the effectiveness of the communication channel and the effective use of the communication channel. So what I'm saying here, before you attempt to get visible using a platform, you want to know how effective it is. And there's a process to do this. Now, one of the points that I want to establish here, doing business, I'm not going to sit here and say to you it's going to be an overnight success. I'm not going to sit here to say to you it's going to be easy, particularly for you, for many novices, because there's a lot of moving parts to position the business to be successful. And that's why very often when you bring in a consultant, and the consultant might say, do this, this, and this is my hourly rate. Sometimes you said, that's very expensive, but you're not paying for an hourly rate, you know. You're paying for 20, 30, 40 years of experience that they have to help you to leapfrog the growth of your operation. Because if you don't have that knowledge, guess what? You could be stuck in your problem zone for decades. So when a consultant like Tony, like Frank comes in, is the combination of all that knowledge that we are now bringing in to really help you to see the realities of doing business and how to navigate that in the shortest possible time and come quicker to cash flow optimization. So let's come right back to processes. How much do you understand mass media to make an informed and educated decision that I want to put the ad on radio or television or newspaper? Because an expert will say to you, it's not just about saying that I want to do a radio ad and I want to place the ad on radio. You have to ask yourself, is the communication channel, is it going to allow me to appeal to my ideal client or reach the ideal client in the first place? Before you can appeal to the ideal client, you have to know that you're reaching the ideal client. But what data points are you using to ensure that the medium that you're going to be using to build visibility is so built out to ensure that you're going to reach the ideal client? You see, in the absence of doing this and understanding the process of doing this, you can simply go with a blindfold over your eyes and produce the ad, put the ad on air, and then you don't get the results that you want. When all the science is there to say to you that the results that you're getting is predictable. And it's predictable because if you have the data will say to you that there's a different way, there's a better way of going about advertising and placement. There's a better process. So what I'm doing here is emphasizing the process of visibility, and I'm just scratching the surface here. There's so much that more we have to go into here to really help you to develop the level of mastery in building the brand visibility. Tony and Frank earlier were talking about some of the top 100 and top 500 companies. I want to assure you that those top 100 and top 500 companies, everything that we are saying here to you is being effectively deployed in their business. All right. Why? Because they invest in big data. They invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and perhaps millions of dollars to collect information about the best media outlet to run their ads, about the best systems that we need to create to attract the right human resources and retain the right human resources. They invest a whole lot. So if you're going to be doing business, there's a right and wrong way. A lot of what we're saying here, small businesses may not fit into it. But I want to say this, you can start small and we can help you to grow big. All right. Our focus here is to really provide you with a content of information that will help you to transcend from a small player into a major player in business. All right. So perhaps the next time we talk of examples of great leaders in business, because we are helping your business can be positioned in that area of strength. All right. So I trust that you're finding substance and benefits in what is being said. And I just want to emphasize it on this platform. We do a lot of research, a lot of deep thinking, a lot of deep digging to ensure that we are bringing quality content of information to you that can help you to make better, smarter business decisions. You want to think ahead of the human, technical, and capital resources. You want to have the right human resources. So when you have the right human resources, when it comes to your marketing and sales and public relation and access to capital, you have the right human resources in place to help you navigate the process. You don't have to do everything on your own. A great leader knows that he's not an island. A great leader knows that very quickly he has to build a team. A great leader knows that very early in the game he has to get a team to buy into his vision. A great leader knows that it requires capital to move the vision forward. And the great leader is not going to wait until their backs are against the wall to then start saying, I need human resources, I need technical resources, and I need capital resources, because they're thinking ahead of this. A great leader knows that he may not understand processes, but because of how we select and qualify experience, knowledge of human resources, he's appointing them, he's attracting them to the organization and appointing them to position of leadership to help with processes, to help with leadership. A great leader knows this. So if you want to be successful in business, all right, we can definitely provide you with that technical support. And again, if you're in 50 states in the US, you have a great business idea and you need access to capital, I want to emphasize this. We can help you. We can also help you access capital at 0% APR. Yes, I was talking to a Hollywood executive coach only last week. This is a Hollywood executive coach, very exceptional talent that helps people with personal branding. And when we break that news to him, he's like, wow, is that for real? Yes, it's for real. And again, this is why it is so important to have the right human resources on your team. Because here's where I'm saying something that sounds like coming out of a movie, but it is real. It sounds like it's coming out of a movie because you don't have that knowledge. So when you have the right team dynamics on your side, they help you to move faster in business and in life. The last thing that I want to say before I open up the floor to my team, I want to say this. We can help you in the US, we can help you in the Caribbean. Today I'm speaking specifically with Guyana. Guyana is now one of the fastest growing countries in the world. One of the fastest. And we have movers and shakers in business who are part of that transformation that is taking place. And because they are keeping pace of the transformation and they're contributing to that transformation, they now want to grow and expand. And they want great leaders as pharmacist technician. They want great leaders as sales and marketing executives to come on board. So if you see yourself as being a young, talented person, that is, say 30 and up, perhaps a little younger, but you see yourself as being, you believe in yourself and you want great opportunities for yourself, I want to encourage you to get in touch with this. Send an email to this number, to this email. Send your CV. State that you perhaps may be a pharmacist technician and you want to be a part of a dynamic organization. Send the email there. And you may be a lucky one to be a part of the operation. Along with this, I want to say to you also, in sales and marketing, if you want to be part of an organization, all right, that's going to support you to realize your dreams, send your email here, all right? Or you can send it directly to us, because part of what I do is to provide the training to ensure that you are the best version of yourself. One of our vision is to work with you, to help you to self-actualize, to help you to become the best version of yourself. So you can do more for yourself, you can do more for your loved one, you can do more for the organization, and you can be a significant contributor to society as a whole. All right, so with that being said, I'm now going to open up the floor. Today we are looking at leadership processes and systems. And every business, you need this. And it's better that you know this from the beginning, how all of these things can play a pivotal role to influence better business results. Tony Frank, all to you.
Hi, all right. Like everything else, there is returns of
Somebody record.
ROI for a great leader. And great leaders positively benefit businesses. I have had the unfortunate experience of working with leaders who leaves a bad taste in your mouth, more or less. And the thing about it with me, that is no isolated incident. Because I've constantly heard about leaders who abuse their power and they continue to rule by threat and punishment, valuing compliance over commitment. They don't realize the productivity and profit that they are leaving on the table. And this behavior indicates that the leader is not effective because they are not aligned with the organization's goals. This kind of leadership tends to demotivate employees, which ultimately leads to disengagement and low retention rates. And this is a costly mistake for any business. Effective leaders benefit a business by keeping employees consistently motivated and productive through coaching, collaboration, and empowerment. And this will result in top performance. It will result in greater profitability. It will result in improved engagement and retention. What leaders need to understand is that investors are watching. Igor Becker founded 442 KM Investment Partners, and he described it as a culture-led investment firm. So why would he choose where to put his money based on culture? Because he knows that culture, as evidenced by the behavior of its leaders, indicates whether an organization will implement its strategy successfully. So he had an interview with the Financial Post, and he identified some indicators that tell him whether leaders are out of step with their strategy or staying the course. And here are a few. Stewardship mentality. Stewardship mentality is what honest, capable leaders seeking to pass on a stronger enterprise to the next generation. That's one culture. The second culture is directional consistency, where their values and purpose remain consistent over long periods and match how people are treated. The third culture is a plain common sense language. The investor communications are free of corporate jargon, management mistakes, and they are acknowledged with honesty and humility. McKinsey and Company recently published a study that analyzed the success of 1,800 organizations over a 9-year period. And they found that companies focused solely on performance did well with an average profit of $400 million. On the flip side, companies that balance a performance focus and people focus fared much better, to the tune of 1.1 billion in average profit and significantly lower attrition. So what do these organizations leaders do differently? Coaching, collaboration, and empowerment. They invest in the development of their people. Over to you, Gary.
Yeah, great share, Frank. And perhaps next week I will dig a little deeper into the cultures associated with some of the top 100 companies, because what you have said there is 101% true. And these guys, they go the extra mile to ensure that the human resources within the organization not only hear that they are part of the family, but they know it and they feel it. All right. They are highly emotionally intelligent in terms of how to design their program to optimize impact with the team dynamics. So I just like what you have shared there. Tony, your thoughts.
Yeah, when we look at everything that Frank said, I mean, the end result is, who are we trying to satisfy as a company? We are trying to satisfy the customer. And the customer has to be happy. The customer has to have the kind of experience we want them to have, right? And that comes from three separate areas. It comes from, one, whether it is the product or service you are using; two, the people; and three, the process that the customer has to go through to use that product and service. And all of that comes, a lot of that comes from, who are the people that are inside the company? What is the culture like? Because believe it or not, customers experience our culture. It is not just the internal people. It's not just the internal customers, it's the external customers as well. So that is something important to remember. And everything that we have said in terms of processes, everything that you want to measure, all of those things are on the balance scorecard that I mentioned earlier. All of the KPIs about statistics and data, you will find with either the financials, you will find it with the customers, you could find it with the people, and you could find it with the internal processes to know if we are doing anything right or anything wrong. But the key is, are we measuring it? That is the key. Are we measuring it? And are we making sure that we are seeing whether it is growing or falling from month to month or quarter to quarter? That is what we have to do to make sure that we get things right.
All right. Tony, you made some great points there again. You made some very, very great points. So I'm just going to say a couple of bits and then we're going to start to wrap up. I think any attempt to build a company that truly embodies emotional intelligence, that truly embodies leadership, that truly embodies performance management, it's not enough. It could never be enough to just focus on building a strong, what I call, corporate brand. And let me distinguish corporate brand from personal brand. You know, you can focus on the aesthetics and the ambience of the organization. So from the time people see the business, the look and feel create a certain appeal. It's part of your corporate brand. I mean, your logo might be there among other things, but you can look at the physical infrastructure of the building, and you can get an appeal before you enter the building, and when you get in, you get a certain appeal also. That's part of your corporate branding. But an essential part of the corporate brand also is the culture that you spoke so eloquently about, Tony. The culture in of itself is a living, breathing organ within the organization. It's not a document that you have on your desk. It must become a living, breathing organ. But it cannot become a living, breathing organ unless there is a deliberate attempt to do what we call personal branding. We're not talking about influencer marketing here. We're talking about personal branding. What that means is that the culture of itself, it has to be interpreted by every single human resources within the organization. So let's look at the organization chart. Everybody at the strategic level must represent what the organization culture says. Everybody at the tactical team must represent what the organization culture is saying. And everyone at the operational team must be a true representation of what the culture is saying. And this is an approach in allowing the personalities within the organization to reflect the culture that the organization in it of itself wants to communicate to the ideal client. So when you go to a company and you say, hey, they have lousy customer care, they may have good policies. All right. But guess what? The HR, the human resource, didn't fully interpret the information as to how the process should be executed so as to transfer that feeling, that experience to the final consumer, because there was a disconnect. And this happened sometimes also because of rapid turnovers within the organization. Rapid turnover. So enough time wasn't there to acclimatize the new team players to the organization so as to give them enough time to grow and mature in what the culture is and how to articulate physically, emotionally, and vocally what that culture means. And there lies a challenge. But I can live with that because it's a new staff and they have to be acclimatized. But we see very often that they're organization that has been existing for quite some time. And they may have good culture in the print, but then it is not a living, breathing organ because of perhaps not effective systems, not proper KPIs in performance management, in leadership, and how it's executed. And these are all things that I would love for us over time to really go deeper into it, because we know the problems, because we deal with this every day. We also know the solutions. And our objective here is to provide this body of knowledge that can really help rising stars in business to be able to make better, smarter business and decisions. My belief is that when we can coincide good corporate branding with good personal branding alongside the influencer marketing, that's something else that we'll talk about later on. It really gives the business a fighting chance to be more successful. But Peter, Frank and Tony, think about this. What if rising stars in business are socializing to thinking about everything that we're talking about long before they start the business? How much does that impact and optimize their chances to be more successful? We didn't talk about access to capital, but those are all things that they need to start thinking ahead about. I think that the main fact that you're applying leadership best practices to think ahead, to see beyond problems, to take informed action to achieve the desired results, really give you a tremendous competitive advantage in business. And this is what top 100 companies do. This is what top 500 companies do. In conclusion, what I want to say, there are many companies, they test the market for 6 months, a year, 5 years. The big companies, depending on what field you're going into, they do tremendous market testing. That means they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're investing millions of dollars into market testing. Why? It's all helping them to think ahead of who is the ideal client, what are their needs, how can I innovate in alignment with those needs. I can't allow my innovation to affect them. I mean, in the case where you might be dealing with, the cologne, the hair, product industry, the last thing that you want to do is to rush to market with a hair product, and then next thing, all of my good hair drop off, and I start to look now like Frank. I'll sue
This,
the company.
this is the look. This is the look.
Frank, I'm just being funny, right? You look good just that way, right? Yeah, but being serious, right? The companies take long to go to market because they are researching, they're thinking ahead, and they're saying, I can't deal with a lawsuit. So to prevent that lawsuit, I'm going to make sure that I have all the information. So I'm happy that Frank would have brought up what some of the big companies are doing. I just went a little bit more into some more of what they're doing, and perhaps next week we can expand further how these big companies truly deploy leadership, how they truly deploy processes and systems into building their brand. All right, I pause here for now. Frank, I'd love to hear from you and Tony, and we can start to wrap up.
Thank you, Gary. And just like how you have return on investment for great leaders, there's also return on investment for the bad ones. Have you ever heard the phrase, um, people don't leave organizations, they leave bad bosses? It's true. In a period of record-breaking job vacancies, people have had little incentive to remain with poor leaders. And so many have taken flight or left the workforce altogether. So consider the cost of turnover. It was, I forget the author's name. He said that he had a meeting with a client and they made a rough calculation that they needed another 10 million in sales to cover the cost of high turnover. Recruiting and training new employees, coupled with the loss of institutional knowledge, will amount to a hefty bill. What if employees stick with a poor leader? The Gallup data gives another angle on the issue because having a bad manager is often a 1-2 punch. The employees feel miserable at work, and that misery follows them home, compounding their stress and putting their well-being in peril. So how much are employee benefits costing? According to the Mercer's National Survey of Employer-Sponsored Health Plans, the average for employee cost of employer-sponsored health insurance rose by 5.2% in 2023. A Kaiser Family Foundation KFF survey found that the average premium for employer-sponsored individual health coverage has risen 20% since 2016. So we know that poor leadership can reduce your returns. Let's look at what you can do to generate massive returns from your leaders. First of all, you got to find the fear. So if you're not getting the performance you expect, start looking for fear. When leaders tell people that they aren't doing their best, what is often found is that there is fear at work. And leaders are often unaware of how they contribute to a sense of fear. Some obvious processes are attempts to help or improve are ignored or punished. There's nothing like public humiliation or the weight of silence to stifle any further attempts to get it. I remember when a leader blasted me, it was in front of a colleague who didn't know what to say afterward. Isolation and double pity. So why would I do it again? When employees failed in the past, it was handled poorly. No one wants to repeat mistakes because we all make them. It's a legitimate part of the learning process. But there's a big difference between support and coaching and a look of disappointment on a leader's face. Then there's a reward system, which reinforces the wrong behaviors. Leaders control the rewards. If performance appraisal ratings and relationships are driven by one's ability to keep your head down and play the yes man, then fear will keep employees from sticking their neck out. And this is where leaders often need the help of a third party, an outside person or an external survey company with no vested interest in the business, who can collect honest and non-employees. There's so much more I can tell you about mind your culture and whatever else, but for time, thank you, Gary.
All right, thanks for that share, Frank. Tony, all to you.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things that Frank was saying happens because we haven't defined and communicated our core values as a company. That is key. That is where everything starts. I mean, when people decide to start up companies, it's because of the values they have, and we want employees to be able to live those values. But in order to live those values, we have to define again, and I've said this over and over. We have to define the types of behaviors we want to see. What do you want to see from leaders? What do you want to see from your employees? And make sure that we continue to communicate that and live that. And you made a statement earlier, Gary, about the what was it? The corporate and personal branding. Those two could interact. Because if you have defined what the sort of competencies you want, and you hire based on those competencies, then you will be hiring people who have those habits already. It's already their brand. So you don't have to look, you don't have to train as much, you don't have to do the work to try to teach people how to be that. You already have it, it's part of your brand. And when that becomes a part of you, and when part of you is also what the company believes in, your battle is halfway done. It's just to get them to do the work. That's it. Not as easy, we will still have issues, but it could minimize the issues that you will have.
Yeah, great point. Great points again, Tony. And that brings us back to, where does the climatization process begins? Does it begin in the organization, or should it begin in academic institution? So when you have the transfer of the human resources from academics into the organization, it makes it much easier for corporate leaders to say, let's move the vision forward, because they're coming with the core values, they're coming with the right habits, they're coming, I want to say, with the experience and not just the theory. So there's so much for us to expand the conversation on, but I love the points that you would have made. So with that being said, I want to go. You have something to say, Tony? Go ahead.
No, nothing.
Okay. So with that being said, I really want to thank Tony for being here today, and Frank for being here today, to engage on this very topical issue of leadership processes and systems. And of course, we look at emotional intelligence and performance management. Next week, Saturday, we will do another rung of this talking points. We will go deeper into the culture of international companies. And of course, we will talk some more about leadership processes and systems. So for businesses, this is the platform that you want to tune into every Saturday, because we always do a deep dive. Again, I want to emphasize, Tony is an expert in his field. Frank is an expert in his field. Frank has lectured at some of the top universities within the Caribbean, so he's no novice to what he's doing. Well, I wear many hats, so I don't talk about me, but I wear many hats. So with that being said, I really want to thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you.
And look forward to being with you guys next week. But Frank, just before we go, just talk to me about the book quickly, your book. What is it about, and how early we can expect it?
The book is all about leadership. It's all about speaking, being the best leader. being an excellent leader, being the leader kind of person that people are not fearful of you. It's not just for the business people, it's for the politicians, it's for the pastors, it's for those who, and there are benefits in this book for everyone. Politicians, you know how to be honest. I know they have to be honest politicians. Not everybody's like,
Is there an honest politician?
yes, there is. I believe so. I will not
All
have
right.
to say if they got the
Wait.
politician, but okay, but tell them the dishonest.
Tony, we got to elevate Frank to politician status, and perhaps he will set
It's
new
just- Anyway, guys, I have to run, but
All right.
I'll see you next week.
All right, guys. Yeah,
See y'all.
we
See
did
y'all.
it.
I gotta run too. Okay.
All right, guys. Take